With CM Punk teasing an appearance for an event and more, this is Wrestling Rambles. My name is John, and you're watching the Wrestling Report. Before we move on, make sure you subscribe to Wrestling Rambles with notifications on, and don't forget to like the video. Asked about his wife, Becky Lynch, and her appearance on Celebrity Jeopardy, Seth Rollins said this on the Sports Illustrated Media podcast. She never watched it. She's from Ireland. She didn't have Jeopardy growing up. I don't think she fully grasps it. When we were younger, especially, it's just massive. Our parents, grandparents, everybody watched it. The buzzer's tricky. The way you have to answer the questions is tricky. But hey, top-rated episode of season. The repeat actually did more viewers, we found out yesterday, than the original airing of the episode. So the buzz that she got, Celebrity Jeopardy people gotta be thrilled. I didn't watch the episode. She wouldn't allow me to watch the episode. She said, you can't watch the episode. No way. Can't do it. Don't watch it. So I didn't do it. I'm a loyal man. I wouldn't do that to her. If she didn't want me to watch something, I wouldn't watch it. After Smackdown went off the air, Randy Orton and LA Knight took on Solo Sikoa and Jimmy Uso in a tag team match. For the second week in a row, Jimmy Uso sold the RKO of Randy Orton for a while as he had to be rolled out of the ring by officials. Also, after Smackdown, a match between Gunther and Chad Gable took place for the Intercontinental title. A user described the bout, writing, SmackDown dark match Gable versus Gunther was great. Gunther hit hard and Gable has great hope spots. Gable's German was really good. Loved Chaos Theory after the match. Liked the DQ finish ball shot on Chaos Theory heel kick. Talking about the number of titles on the line in the Continental Classic tournament, Jon Moxley told Bleacher Report, "There's a lot of belts. Belts come and go. They're what you make them. I've never seen a belt get anyone over in my life, personally. I've seen people get belts over. They come and go, and they're devices. If you treat them as important, they become important. If you treat them like a joke, they become a joke. People don't pack arenas to look at shiny pieces of metal and jewels." As Vince McMahon has been out of the creative picture in WWE, he hasn't been around in the company, as PW Insider said. Vince McMahon, who has not been seen much at WWE headquarters of late, was at the company's annual holiday party, which was held at the new HQ for the first time this past Wednesday evening. McMahon, who we are told would not regularly attend the holiday party in the past, was not only in attendance but making the rounds, talking with lots of company employees. In speaking to several who were in attendance at the party, which was exclusively for employees, he was described as approachable and friendly. On his Extreme Life podcast, Matt Hardy said this regarding CM Punk's WWE return. "You can't hate that move by WWE for sure. It was a shocking move. Obviously, it was going to get people talking. It's business and it's good for business. I would imagine it's an environment where I think Phil would be on his best behavior there. If that makes him happy and he's good with that, then I'm fine with that too. I'm cool with that. It is what it is." When it comes to the crowds that WWE and AEW pulled in for their shows, Ringside News wrote, WrestleTix recently compiled attendance figures for WWE and AEW television shows this week. Among the shows, Friday Night SmackDown had the most live audience attendance, which has been the case for most weeks now. On the other hand, AEW Collision had the least attendance among any of the shows, which is also not a shocking thing now. Monday Night Raw on December 4th, 2023 took place in Albany, New York at the MVP Arena, with the show drawing an audience of 6,986. AEW Dynamite took place in Central Bell in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, and garnered 4,994 for the December 6th episode. The December 8th episode of Friday Night SmackDown in Providence, Rhode Island at the Amica Mutual Pavilion drew 8,677, sold as indicated by sales by Friday afternoon. The December 9th AEW Collision, which was taped in advance, also took place at Central Bell in Montreal. It only managed to attract 2,852 fans. Staying on the topic of ticket sales, Ringside News wrote this regarding Raw after CM Punk was announced for the show. For the upcoming Monday's Raw, WWE has already advertised matches such as Cody Rhodes versus Shinsuke Nakamura and Drew McIntyre versus Jey Uso, with more matches and segments expected to be announced as the show draws closer. WrestleTix reports that the show has sold 8,283 tickets, with 916 still available for a setup of 9,199. Notably, in the last 6 days following WWE's announcement of Punk's appearances on the show, 1,511 tickets have been sold. To put this in perspective, the last time WWE was at the same venue in June, they drew a crowd of 10,495 for Raw. Going over the possibility of New Japan star Giulia making her way to WWE as her current contract is set to expire in March, the Wrestling Observer newsletter wrote that regarding Giulia, the update is that she has not made her mind up and that she and WWE have spoken several times of late. They've talked enough that there is something to the story, although the story she was going to the Performance Center at this time ended up not being accurate, but she has not told those in Japan that she's staying nor that she's leaving. On Instagram, Baron Corbin paid tribute to his dog that just passed away as he wrote, "Big man Xander left us yesterday and it has crushed our world. He was a best friend, companion, protector, pain in the butt, supportive, bed hog, funny, and so many more things, but most of all, he gave you unconditional love 24/7. Him and my children shared a bond like no other. We will all miss everything about him, even his horrible breath when he licked your face. Hopefully, wherever his spirit has gone, they serve A5 steak because he can be a little bougie. I could write and turn this into a novel about him, but I will just say thank you for being the best dog to us for nearly 10 years. There will never be another Xander." Going over the likely plans for WWE's upcoming premium live event, Dave Meltzer noted in the Wrestling Observer newsletter, for the Royal Rumble, while nothing is announced, they seem to be teasing Reigns versus Orton, Sky versus Belair, and Logan Paul defending the US title against a tournament winner. With the two Rumbles, you probably aren't having more than 3 or 4 other matches, so some of that could be for television. Rollins versus McIntyre is another match they are building as a major one. Reigns defending on the show was part of the plans for months, and he starts back in 2 weeks on Smackdown. During her match against Bayley on SmackDown, Charlotte Flair seemingly got injured during this top rope move. Here's the video. Graham Matthews added that real ugly spot toward the end, rush to the finish. Charlotte Flair says my knee as she's helped out of the ring seemed to hurt her neck too. Just awful. Wishing her the best. Here's some fan footage of that moment. Finally, Charlotte could be seen being assisted from the ring to the back after the match.
Captain Florent Groberg, we are here to award you our nation's highest military distinction, the Medal of Honor, on his very worst day.
PW Insider added that Flair was walked out by officials after the bout. She was being evaluated by WWE Medical, but have not heard anything additional. There was absolutely some concern among other talents about her knee specifically, but again, nothing concrete at this time. With a returning to action in AEW last month, Red Velvet had been off programming for quite some time as she explained the situation on Pope's point of view with Elijah Burke. Recently, as everyone has seen, I just came back from a knee injury that had me off for 9 months, almost a total of a year gone. I made my comeback on November 8th in Portland. It didn't stop me. I went back to back to back. I call it the comeback tour. It didn't stop me there. It went on and on. It was a great high of coming back, and I'm so grateful. Noting an injury that took place during a taping for Ring of Honor, Ringside News wrote that ROH Women's Champion Athena has unfortunately suffered a legitimate injury, a broken nose, as confirmed by PWInsider.com. Although Athena initially shared this news through a tweet, she later deleted the tweet. It is believed that the injury occurred during a recent taping for Collision/Ring of Honor in Montreal, which is set to air on an upcoming episode of ROH on WatchROH.com. The injury is said to have happened during a brawl with Billy Starks, possibly when Athena was tossed into a guardrail or a ring post. Despite the broken nose, Athena has expressed her determination to continue working and is committed to her appearance at the Ring of Honor Final Battle pay-per-view next week. Taking a shot at the appearance of Sami Zayn, former WWE writer Vince Russo said on his The Brand podcast, "My heat with Sami Zayn is, can I be honest with you, bro? Bro, you were in the opening of Raw. You look like a slob. You look like a slob, bro. And I'm a casual fan watching this at home. If I happen to stumble upon this, that's exactly what I'm saying. Who is this slob in the ring?" Mentioning the success of the most recent episode of Smackdown, Ringside News wrote that according to Fightful Select, Friday night's Tribute to the Troops episode of WWE Smackdown smashed records like a champ. It raked in more cash than any other televised live event WWE has ever thrown in that particular market. The showdown went down at the Amica Mutual Pavilion in Providence, Rhode Island, and it's now etched in history as the highest grossing WWE TV event ever. Just one day before the epic showdown on December 8th, WrestleTix reported that WWE had already snatched up 8,257 tickets for the event. Only 435 seats were left vacant, and that's with just 24 hours to go before the action kicked off. The venue was set up for a total of 8,692 seats. Speaking of the blue brand, it looks like WWE will tape an episode of SmackDown for the week after next. As Ringside News noted, between December 19th and December 25th, there are no live events on the WWE calendar, giving the talent a full week to relax and enjoy the festivities. But don't worry, wrestling fans, the action resumes with the WWE Holiday Live Tour on December 26th. Now, let's talk about what's going on in Green Bay, Wisconsin. According to Fightful Select, the WWE Friday Night SmackDown event scheduled for December 15th is going to be a double taping extravaganza. There will be a live show that night on Fox, and they'll be taping some thrilling matches for the following week's show on December 22nd. As for the WWE Monday Night Raw event on December 18th in Des Moines, Iowa, we're still in the dark about the plans. Given the news of a double taping for SmackDown, it looks as though WWE stars will have some time off during the holiday season. Ringside News said that, according to Fightful Select, WWE talent is going to receive a full week off later this month during the Christmas holiday week. Moreover, no WWE events have been scheduled between December 19th and December 25th. On December 26th, however, the WWE Holiday Live Tour will kick things back into momentum. During a recent media interview, it was indicated that it is Triple H's hope to bring about change for WWE talent who have no time for catering to their families and their own personal lives. This has been the case with the previous regime, though if the report stands true, this is a time for change. Explaining why he decided to spit on Daniel Garcia during their match on AEW Rampage, Bryan Danielson said in a backstage interview, "Sometimes I do things and I don't know why, and I come back here and meditate, and I figure out why. A lot of stuff comes up when I started that match, a lot of stuff that comes up from last year, things I try to forget, but my body remembers. Last year, telling Daniel Garcia that his entire life that he wanted to be a wrestler and not a sports entertainer. And then what happened? When I was facing Chris Jericho in a Ring of Honor World title match, he completely betrayed me. And I get it, that happens in wrestling. But if he would have joined the BCC, I would have treated him like a son. It also brings up this fear that I've promised my daughter that this would be my last full-time year as a professional wrestler. And this fear of if the time I go home and I make that promise and she doesn't want me anymore. And I couldn't articulate it when I was out there, but my body felt it. My body felt that fear because eventually she's going to grow up and she's not going to want her dad around." Giving his thoughts behind the toe touch he performed on Smackdown in 2011 on Mark Henry, Randy Orton said this: "The infamous toe touch, if I may, was a hell of a toe touch, quite the athlete. That toe touch was not me celebrating. I wanted to rage on my opponent, but because my opponent was Mark Henry, I couldn't get angry at Mark Henry. I had to get that adrenaline and anger out in some other ways, so for some reason I chose to jump up and touch my feet. I don't know why." Sharing a story about The Undertaker when he was a bouncer, Dutch Mantel said on his podcast, he said the same thing. He said, "I'm going, but you ain't making me go." And The Undertaker said, "I snatched that son of a bitch, I run his head right into the wall, put the boots to him, and threw him outside." He was smart. He didn't try to fight Taker because that would be the wrong thing to do, but he threw his ass out. Revealing the initial plans for MJF's role in the movie The Iron Claw, which is about the Von Erich family, Ringside News wrote, "In this wrestling extravaganza of a film, you'll see pro wrestling icon Ric Flair and the ever-charismatic MJF. MJF steps into the shoes of Lance Von Erich, a character with some kayfabe connection to the Von Erich family. But here's where things get interesting. While the final version of the film might have given MJF's role a trim, the original script has recently been unveiled. According to PW Insider's Mike Johnson, MJF's character had more meat on the bone in the initial script he got his hands on back in 2022. In this earlier script, there were 3 scenes featuring Lance. He was introduced by Fritz as the new Von Erich, causing some tension with Kevin Von Erich, who wasn't exactly thrilled about this passing of the torch scenario. The script also showed Lance and the crew struggling in the ring, trying to find their groove. There was also a scene where Lance, with all the charisma he could muster, demanded more dough from Fritz, which, as you can imagine, didn't go down too well. In the end, Lance got the boot. Yep, that was his storyline, a brief subplot. Now, we don't know if these scenes were ever filmed or if they were chopped on the cutting room floor, but one thing's for sure, MJF's character in the Iron Claw had a bit more depth in the original script than what made it to the final cut. Talking about hanging up his pro wrestling boots, Billy Gunn said this to A to the K. "Would I like to retire? Yes. Would I ever get away from wrestling? Not a chance. There is no way. I feel I still have too much to offer in a sense of helping, maybe not so much in the ring. That kind of got my head spinning a little bit when I get ran through by House of Black, but I got to thinking, I'm not letting people run through me like that. I have to come back. I'm not leaving on that note, even though I tried to. Austin and Colton weren't having it. They weren't having that retirement yet, and that's not how I'm going to retire. Austin and Colton say I have to wrestle them, that's my retirement match. I tell them Will Ospreay is my retirement match. They get so mad about that. I love Will, there is something about him, and he does some really cool stuff that I've never done that I just want to take. That's what I tell them all the time. I'm not wrestling you two for my retirement, I'm wrestling Will Ospreay." It was announced that AEW star Andrade El Idolo would be returning to CMLL on December 15th, and this apparently has some up in arms. The man himself took to social media to say this: "Stop talking crap. I am happy that I almost returned to CMLL. It is where I started my career, and it opened the doors for me to be able to work in many companies, NJPW, WWE, AAA, AEW. Good companies that you know as indie, but I understand that all fans defend their company. It's worth noting that Andrade's AEW contract is set to expire soon, according to Dave Meltzer." On social media, CM Punk posted a photo of himself outside of WWE headquarters writing, "Missed my flight today. Woke up in Bridgeport. Anything to do here?" The NXT account replied, "We can think of something to do, CM Punk. #NXT Deadline." This seems to hint at him making an appearance for the event tonight. Shawn Michaels even chimed in, writing, "Since you're in Bridgeport and have some time, let's forego the phone call and talk in person." Triple H then replied, "I gotta see this." Of course, CM Punk hinted at potentially signing with NXT during his promo on Smackdown, as it remains to be seen if he shows up for the Deadline event. And this was your pro wrestling news update. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see y'all later.